Is Ted Cruz in any trouble in Texas? The answer right now is not yet, but that's what we're going to take a look at today on Political Excess. And you can see the story right here. Ted Cruz has his first major challenger for 2024. It's Colin Allred. I'll scroll through it here. But Allred, he played a little bit in the NFL. He's from the Dallas suburbs, and he first got elected in that blue wave of 2018 when he knocked off incumbent Republican Pete Sessions. So that's an impressive win. Since redistricting, it seems like the Republicans have pretty much abandoned that district. So it's early, but we can see how much of a threat Allred might be. Now, he's considered a top candidate for the Democrats. Maybe that's true. We heard in 2018, Beto O'Rourke, he was a top recruit as well, and that was a blue wave, and he still lost by 2.5 points. So it is going to come down to the trends 6 years later in a presidential election compared to 2018. Now, first, let's back up just a bit here. Let's see what Ted Cruz did in his first win in 2012. Well, you might remember Ted Cruz was part of that Tea Party wave, and he did kind of come out of nowhere, and he ended up beating David Dewhurst in a runoff for that Republican nomination. Now, in the general election, you could see here, it wasn't close whatsoever. He won by 16 points. Nobody thought that race was going to be competitive back then, but if you jump ahead to 2018, everybody thought this race was going to be competitive. It feels like it was just yesterday, but it was almost 4.5 years ago that Ted Cruz was able to hang on and beat O'Rourke. And you can see on the map here, most of these counties are dark red, not a lot of people in those counties, so it's a little bit misleading. And back in 2018, Ted Cruz had become more of a nationally known figure. He already ran for president, he had that long filibuster, he was getting a lot more media attention, and most of it seemed to be negative. His personality kind of comes off as a little bit greasy, a little insincere, so especially in 2018, he was considered off-putting and beatable. Now, he proved resilient, he was able to win, but now we've got to talk about 24. So again, it's early. Ted Cruz could always decide he's not going to run for re-election, but it seems like he is going to go for that third term. Maybe he faces a primary challenger. It doesn't look like it at this point. There's not much on here for endorsements yet. For the Democrats, there it is, Colin Allred. And I know there's a lot of jokes about his last name. If he's trying to turn Texas blue, it might help him a little bit if he changes his name. But anyway, I would expect him to face a competitive primary. Now, there's a ton of potential candidates listed here. Most of them are not going to do anything. But if he was already going to just coast to the nomination and be the presumptive nominee, I think they would end up hurting the Democrats. I think Allred should go through a rigorous primary so he could fight off some of his later criticisms in the general election. But it is Texas. If the Democrats think they have only one shot at it with Allred, then I guess he's going to be their guy. And somehow in a state with that many people in it, there's not going to be a competitive primary. Now we could go down a little bit farther, and we've got a couple of endorsements. Again, way too early to look at that. But down here, the predictions and Cook Political Report, they took it down to a likely Republican, along with Sabato. Inside Elections still has it at solid Republican. I don't know why this would ever be considered a safe Republican seat, just given what happened in 2018, given Ted Cruz's favorabilities, given the trends. Starting it at likely is really the only way to go. Maybe there's a big red wave, and it eventually becomes safe, or maybe it goes the other way and it becomes competitive and goes down to leans. So let's take a look at the 2018 Senate map. So here's the county map on New York Times. Again, Cruz, he won it by 2.6. And the key places to watch are, of course, going to be in South Texas. Not a lot of people in most of these counties, but way down here by Brownsville, Hidalgo, Cameron, there's enough votes there that it could actually matter. But what about the deep red counties? Well, there's a ton of them. Most of them are sparsely populated. Now, some of these already voted for Ted Cruz by 75 or even close to 90% of the vote. But have they already maxed out, or could they squeeze another 1 or 2% out? That's going to be something else to watch. But the biggest thing to watch is going to be the light blue counties, the suburbs. Probably the biggest one here is Williamson County, north suburbs of Austin. That flipped. O'Rourke won that in 2018. Biden flipped it and won it in 2020. And that had long been a Republican stronghold. The population has really boomed there, so for it to flip and narrowly go to Biden in 2020, that's definitely a bad sign for the Republicans. Now, in the recent midterms, Greg Abbott, he was able to win that county, but it was only by about 0.5 point. So the trends here are not a good sign at all for the Republicans, but if Abbott can win this county by 0.5 point and still win by 11, then that means there's plenty more vote out there that the Republicans have tapped into. Here's another county down here, Nueces County. This is where Corpus Christi is, and O'Rourke narrowly won this county in 18, but for president, this is a county the Republicans have narrowly won over the last several cycles. So that's another light blue county that the Democrats are going to want to hold on to, and Ted Cruz is going to want to flip back. Another county over here, Jefferson County, not a ton of people, but that's another one that's drifted a couple of points to the left during presidential years over the past several cycles. How about Harris County? That's a county that went big for O'Rourke, and this really drifted away from the Republicans over the past decade and a half. You would think that losing this heavy population county by this wide of a margin would mean you can't win the state, but apparently you can lose Harris County now by more than 15 points and still win the state. Now, one other county is Tarrant County. This is another one Republicans were winning by sizable margins up until 2020, when it flipped and narrowly went to Biden. And as you can see here, it narrowly went to O'Rourke. So I know it's not a one-to-one comparison to compare what happened in 2020 with Biden to what happened in 2018 in the Senate, and try to use that to predict what would happen in 2024 in the Senate, but this does show you where Ted Cruz's weaknesses were in 2018. We all know the theme was the suburbs trended a lot toward the Democrats. South Texas ended up going toward the Republicans in 2020. So there's a lot of different angles here. And what does this mean for Ted Cruz and Colin Allred? Well, those two are already going at it. It's a year and a half away, but it seems like these two are going to be the nominees. We'll see exactly how that goes. Whatever happens now, that might have absolutely no impact on what happens in a year from now. But if Ted Cruz is going to want to win a third term, all he has to really do is flip back these light blue counties and cut into the margin a little bit in Harris County. Maybe he can only lose it by 11 or 12 instead of 16. That would be huge for Cruz. It's probably a big ask at this point for the trends to go that much toward Cruz, but he's really going to want to flip Williamson back. He's going to hope he can have some more gains in South Texas. Maybe he can squeeze out another point or two across these counties that are already going for him by massive margins. And if Allred wants to win this, he's going to have to hope the trends keep going in Williamson and Tarrant. He's going to have to run it up huge in Travis. Probably crack 75% of the vote. My early rating right now has been likely Republican. Being so far away, you got to be a little bit cautious. There's no way I'm going to say Ted Cruz has this thing locked up, and there's no way I'm going to say Colin Allred has a great chance to flip this state. Ted Cruz has been around a little while now. He knows what he has to do. He knows what his weaknesses are, and he should be able to win a third term, but there could always be a scandal. Cruz could have some missteps. Could be a blue national environment, and that could be enough to give Allred a 1 or 2 point win. That's probably the best case scenario at this point. We'll see what happens. But that is a look at what's going on in Texas with Ted Cruz and Colin Allred. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about this race? How much danger, if any, is Ted Cruz in? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.